Hello. Today's plan is to cover the audio tools within Vectorworks. There aren't really all that many. It's two different tools and one plugin. You do need Vectorworks Spotlight or Designer to have these tools available to you. The interesting thing though is the plugin, which is recently released with the latest update of Vectorworks. It's going to save you a lot of time importing your stage design into SoundVision to calculate your speaker throw and speaker dispersion with a lot more ease. So let's just quickly get into it. Before we drop in any audio gear into this drawing, let's switch over to the production deck layer, and I'm going to make sure the venue and PDF layers are off. I can also turn off the seating layer. Okay, under the audio and video tool palette, you will see that we have two tools over here. There's the speaker array tool and the speaker tool. We're going to start with the speaker tool. Okay, so what this does is you'll see first that we have a symbol mode insertion and a catalog mode insertion. The difference is basically symbols are Vectorworks assets that come with attributes associated with them. So shapes, sizes, dispersions. Catalogs are plugin objects which you can manipulate. Which means that if you bring in a catalog object, you can create your own custom size speakers. Whereas with symbols, we go by manufacturer and model. The ability to customize the size, dispersion and shape of the speakers is something which you don't get with your symbols. It's only available on your catalog. I'm going to add in one of each. Okay, for my symbol, I am going to use a JBL Eon. So you can see that there's a whole list of speakers in here. I am going to use an Eon, and let's just use the 612. Okay, I'm going to click once to place, and the second time is for the angle. Okay, and you can see an Eon gets dropped in over there. For the catalog, I'm just going to use the first catalog object over here, and I'm going to drop it in over here. Okay, so with the speaker symbol selected, in the object info palette, you can see that the only option I have to modify is to flip my orientation. And what that does is it flips the speaker on its side, which would be really useful if you're using it as a monitor speaker. We're not doing that, so I'm just going to leave it as it is. Okay. The other technical data within the object info palette is mostly grayed out. It's a manufacturer given set of specifications. If you scroll down further, you do have an option of changing the type of support. So this is cool if you look at it in an isometric view. You can see that my speaker is currently on the floor. Let me just move them a little bit more this way. Okay, so looking at this speaker symbol over here, if I look in my object info palette, you can see that there is an option for support. And under support, there are a few different ways that you can configure your speaker to be set up in. It can be in a flown motors or flown cranklift kind of situation. What's particularly interesting in this list for us is it could be on a tripod. If you put it on a tripod, you can specify a specific height for it. Maybe I want it to be way higher. If it's a tripod, you also can rotate the way the tripod legs splay out in front of you. Maybe I want it to be such that the single leg is at the back. You can switch it over to a mic stand, so it's a round base. It could also be a yoke down or a yoked up kind of configuration. In a yoked configuration, you also have the flexibility to specify your tilt. So a negative tilt if you want the speaker to tilt down, and a positive tilt if you want the speaker to tilt upwards. Okay, so with that out of the way, be sure to scroll all the way down and assign your default parts classes if you're choosing to use this speaker. You'll notice that there's also a lot of data over here. This data can come in useful if you are exporting worksheets and you are sending data from Vectorworks to other programs. Not particularly of interest to me at the moment, but there it is. Okay. Once I'm done with this, I'm moving over to the catalog. Okay, with this catalog, you can see that all my values over here are no longer grayed out. So what that means is, if I want to make the speaker narrower at the front, and I want it to be shorter and not so tall, I have that flexibility. Okay, I can also make it tighter at the back and wider in front, and I can make it shallower if I need it to be. You can also specify a weight and details like your dispersion, vertical dispersion, horizontal dispersion. Basically, you're creating your own custom speaker. Once you are done, you can save the type to a catalog so that you can reuse the same settings every time you recall that particular catalog. Okay, for this particular venue, we're going to stick with the Eon 612, and it's going to be in a tripod configuration. Tripods is going to be at 900 millimeters, and I don't need this catalog. I'm just going to select this speaker and make sure that my parts classes are all defaulted, and then I'm going to move the speaker itself to its own container class. I'm going to put it in production audio, and moving over to my top plan, what I'm going to do is I'm going to put this speaker on the side. So it's going to be my monitor speaker. I'm going to put one over here, and I'm going to face you in 90 degrees. A little bit more. Okay. I'm just going to option drag one more, maybe 3 meters away. And once I'm satisfied, I'm just going to mirror it over to the other side. So that way I have 4 monitor speakers in the Eon 612 family. Okay, the other tool we can explore for audio in Vectorworks is the speaker array tool over here. This is similar to the speaker tool, but as the name suggests, it allows you to insert more complex speaker systems, such as flown speaker columns or ground stacks, sub-pole systems even. We'll cover all 3 of these and then also look at the dispersion display to see how this can help with speaker placement in the production plan. Okay, first let's switch over to the production overhead layer, and then let's zoom into the area under truss B, which is this guy over here. You'll notice that when I mouse over, you see a bumper outline, and you also see a red line appearing. This red line is really important because it tells you that whatever you are placing is getting connected to the truss. So if you're doing calculations for load and you're doing rigged objects, you really want to make sure you can see this red line. Okay, I'm going to make sure that I'm in the center insertion over here, and I'm going to place my array over here. Okay, obviously you can see how the bumper is off. I'm just going to hit OK, and I'm going to move this guy over to my truss. Okay, once I have a bumper in place, I'm going to click on the bumper, and in my object info palette you can see I have some things going on. Before we get into the details, we want to make sure we configure the array first. So when you click configure array, the array detail and configuration window appears. So because it's an array, there is a bumper and there are multiple speakers in the system. And just like how you did with the speaker tool, each component in the array can either be a catalog or a symbol. For ease of familiarity, I'm gonna go with the L-Acoustics family of systems. So I'm gonna use a symbol for the bumper, and I'm gonna go with the keyboard. Just this guy over here. Okay, usually Vectorworks will take a little time to download the symbol that you're trying to use, so we wait. Once it's done, we can move on to the second speaker, speaker A. Same thing, we're gonna go over to symbol, and I'm gonna go with the SB15M, which is a subwoofer. And with speaker B, I'm gonna go with a symbol again, and I'll go with the keyboard. Just this one over here. Okay, so now we have 3 different components as part of our array, and we can go over to the array page to build out our speaker array. You will notice that I skipped speaker C because in this particular configuration there are only 2 different types of cabinets. If you're using a system which has an additional component like a kilo or something of that family, go ahead and add whatever you need. So firstly, you'll see that inside here you have an option to customize the array once again. It can be a crank lift, it could be a tripod or a sub pole. We're gonna do one each of the flown motors, the ground stack and the sub pole, just to see the differences. But before we get into that, I'm going to load out one basic configuration first. All you're going to do is click the speaker that you want and add or swap bumpers. Okay, once I have 2 subs, I'm going to add in another bumper, and I'm going to add in 4 keyboards. Okay, you'll notice that each speaker can be assigned an angle. If I remember correctly, the first unit has to be a 0, and every subsequent unit on the keybar can go up to 15 degrees. So what I'm going to do over here is I'm going to leave the first one at 0, and let's say we do a 5 degree for each of the other cabinets. So as I'm updating this, you can see how the schematic view is appearing over here. The funny thing is the SB15s don't line up very well with the bumper, but that's because if you know anything about the system, you'll know that in a sub first configuration, the bumper needs to be turned the other way around. So that's how the points line up. Vectorworks doesn't really understand this. Not really critical for what we're trying to do here, but it's just something that's good to know. That's why there's a gap over here, because the system is trying to line up the rigging point of the speaker to the rigging point of the bumper. So once I'm done with all this, I'm gonna hit OK, and you will notice that the bumper has changed to resemble the keyboard, but nothing else has happened. So before I do anything, I'm just going to shift my bumper to centralize onto my truss, just so that it looks a little bit more balanced out. And then I'm going to select the bumper, and in my object info palette over here, I'm going to scroll down and look for populate array. So just hit that one time, and then I'm going to wait. Just bear in mind, if you're using a potato PC, it will take a little bit longer, so just be patient. So once it's done, you can switch over to your isometric view, and you can see that a truss system has appeared. Sometimes it bugs out a little bit, and you can see how one of my bumpers are actually missing. So usually a second hit of the populate array button will sort it out for you. I'm now going to go back into my top plan view, and I'm going to just make sure to select my bumper and option drag 1000 and one more, and if I were to go back into my isometric view, you can see that I have 3 sets of bumpers. Okay, what I'm going to do over here is I'm going to modify this bumper. And I'm going to turn this guy from a flow motor configuration to a ground stack. And you'll notice that Vectorworks requires a bumper to be on the ground first before the subs can be laid out. Again, another one of the Vectorworks quirks, but we just leave it be and hit OK. I'm going to move my bumper down to the floor because it thinks that it's on the truss. And here you see we have a ground stack configuration. For the last bumper, I'm going to configure it again, and this time it's going to be on a subpole. And same thing, I'm going to move the bumper down to 0. Okay, you can see how the pole is holding up my subwoofers. Again, not very right. So we're going to go back into the array settings over here, and we're going to set the ground speaker count to 2. And maybe the tripod height should go up a little bit more. And I'm also going to remove 2 of my speakers because that looks a little bit more realistic. And there you go. There is a ground stack with a subpole. Ideally, if you're doing a subpole configuration like this, you want to use a keyed bumper instead of a keyboard bumper, but these things are not all available in the program yet, so it helps if you are flexible enough to work around it to kind of visualize what it is that you need to visualize. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to turn off my parameter drapes and the stage as well, and the ladders, so we can take a better look at what we have over here. Okay, I need to make an important distinction that if you are trying to select a component of the array, there's a difference. If you pick on the bumper, the very first bumper, you see speaker array in your object info palette. If you select an individual speaker element, you see speaker or speaker bumper. So if you're trying to manipulate the whole array, you want to make sure you pick up the parent unit, not the sub-units. Same goes for the ground stack. If you want to pick up the bottom bumper, it says speaker array, but anything else will just say speaker bumper or speaker. Okay, now that we've taken a look at the variations, we're going to quickly take a look at the dispersion display. So this is quite interesting. I want to turn on my seating first so that you know what exactly is going on. I'm going to get rid of all these because they're not being used in this venue, and we're just going to look at it in the top plan view first. You can see how this array is a little to the left of the space, so it might not be ideal for covering the audience that we have over here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to move to my left side view, and I'm going to pick up the very first cabinet, And I'm going to scroll down and show dispersion for range 1. Okay, obviously you can see this is firing on top of the audience, but we're not looking at the side dispersion. We're looking at the top coverage first. So what I want to do is I want to make sure that I have 2 speaker clusters that cover the left and right area of my audience evenly. This kind of gets one side but doesn't do the other. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to move my bumper maybe about here. Somewhere around here. And you can see I barely get the one at the end. And then we go over to the side view and we see how the speaker is essentially firing off into space. So this tells you that this particular configuration might not be ideal for this seating arrangement. So I'm going to reconfigure this array and I'm going to remove the subs and I'm going to add in another keybar, and then I will do a 10-degree incline on the bottom 4 cabinets. And I will leave the first cabinet at 0. And then once that's done, I will go up to the bumper angle and I'm going to tilt the whole bumper by a -5 degrees. So with that done, I'm going to hit OK. And once the array populates in, I'm going to select each individual cabinet and show dispersion range 1. So you can see here that I covered most of the audience seating area. I will then go back to my top plan view, and since I've sort of covered the area that I want to cover, I'm going to select the bumper and I'm going to mirror the bumper across to the other side. So if I were to go over to my right side view and I want to select the new speakers that have just been populated, what I can do is I can show the dispersion and in my top plan view you'll see that they cover most of my audience area. I need to make a very important note over here to say that while the 5 keyvars do cover the audience, it's perhaps not the best configuration for a space like this. You want to make sure that you don't overkill it with your speakers. So this venue actually comes with a series of point source speakers, and usually that is enough to cover a little black box like this. This is done in the interest of learning, so this is what the dispersion display lets you calculate. To round off the lower range, what I'm going to do is I'm going to drag over let's say 2000 and put over here. Over here I'm going to configure this one to be just subs, and I'm going to set it at 0 degree and populate array, and then when it's done I'm just going to mirror it over and populate array. Okay, So with that, I kind of have most of my audio sorted. You can see there's a little bit of a haywiring thing going on over here. We can quickly fix that. Just want to make sure that all my rays are at the right height. Here we go. It's supposed to be at 5925. 5925. And this one's at 5882. Okay, so there you go. We have a rather overkill line array configuration for a tiny little black box. Okay, it's important to note that this particular dispersion feature can be used to just about every speaker symbol or catalog within Vectorworks. So as long as that particular symbol has some kind of dispersion data, you should be fine using it to figure out where you want to place your speakers. So that's about it for the installed speaker system. I'm just gonna pick up all of these and make sure that they are in the correct class. So I want to put them in the same production audio class. Okay, that should help me be able to turn them off and on together. Okay, so a recent addition to Vectorworks is the SoundVision Export plugin, and this isn't so much for installing speakers in the drafting program, but what it does is it provides you a 3D environment, or rather data for a 3D environment, which you can just pull into SoundVision based on whatever you have drawn in Vectorworks. Coming from the old SketchUp days, it used to be a bit of a pain to have to download SketchUp and import a drawing into SketchUp and get SketchUp to do the conversion for you. This really saves a lot of time if you are in the Vectorworks ecosystem and you're using acoustics equipment. So what you need to do first is make sure that you're updated to the latest update at the time of recording, which is 4.1. Okay, so I want to make sure I save my file, and then we head over to the help tab over here and we look for install partner products. Okay, and in here you have all the extra products that Vectorworks partners have created. So under entertainment, you can see that we have an export to SoundVision plugin. So it's pretty straightforward. You just gotta click on the plugin and hit install. And once it's done, you gotta relaunch Vectorworks in order for the plugin to appear. Okay, so once Vectorworks comes back, you realize that I now have a brand new option up here which says L Acoustics, and it's really just that simple. You just head over there and click on export to SoundVision and you get this really cute little plugin over here, and here you can pick which elements of your drawing you want to export and at what level of detail, whether you want to use true geometry or you just want a box. For SoundVision, usually basic box shapes are enough. You can see what happens over here the moment I use true geometry. The number of faces goes through the roof, and SoundVision doesn't handle all those faces all that well. So maybe keep it simple, just a bounding box, and without the other symbols. Just modify your settings till you get to a point where this number of faces looks green, and hit export. And what that will do is it will give you a text file which you can import into SoundVision and start dropping in your actual plugin objects over there to do your calculation the professional way. That's about all for audio. Good enough to drop in a couple of speakers and maybe do some simple calculations. In the next one, we'll be doing lighting. Lighting is pretty hefty and we'll need to break it up into pieces. So we'll do it one step at a time. We'll start off by just placing the lights in the plan first and maybe adding some data to them. Okay, so see you then. Bye.